Alright, hello and welcome. I'm trying to stream directly from my iPhone for a change, so trying to set it up. I'm gonna wait for a few more minutes before I'll start with the actual stuff. Let some people join in. And yeah, but my control stream looks fine. I hope people can hear me. I'm not gonna turn up the volume on my computer because otherwise we get feedback, I guess, and that would be nasty. So if the audio isn't working out, please tell me if you're wondering why I'm not talking, but I think it should be fine. Put away the multimeter. So let's see if the chat works. Chat is looking good. Let's see if anyone's joining today. It's an ad hoc stream. So beep, the iron is ready. So what are we going to do today? We are going to assemble this DIY soldering kit, which is for practicing soldering. And it's a pretty nice little kit. It's all through-hole components and yeah, suitable for beginners, I would say. It's basically a star of LEDs, hence the name of the stream. It has two different ICs. One is a decade counter, so it can count from 0 to 9 or from 1 to 10, whatever you like. And it has a timer chip, which triggers the counter. And so in the end, you will get 10 rings of LEDs going outwards every time the timer chip ticks. And you can tune the speed of that by twisting the trimmer pot here. And the actual rings of LEDs are switched by these little transistors here. So you've got all the important components. You have a few capacitors here, 3 capacitors that you need. You have a bunch of resistors for the LEDs. You have 2 chips and you have a whole lot of LEDs. So this is pretty good, pretty decent. Hi Freddy V from Modmaster fame is here. Yeah, anyway, this is a perfect beginner kit and it actually makes for a nice little display, maybe for Christmas or something, where you can use some stars. And you have a ton of components in here. And I think we can manage to assemble this. There's a very interesting USB lead with a nice little barrel plug, which goes in here. But you can also solder some pins straight to the PCB. Then we have the ton of LEDs and chips and stuff. But we will start off with the resistors, I would guess. This is probably the best to do. There are 3 different kinds of resistors. We'll have to look them up maybe, or we can just measure them. And most are marked. There's a ton of 1K resistors which are marked, a ton of non-marked resistors which we will have to measure, and there's one single one which should be the 10K. So what do we have here? We have brown, black, orange. So I never remember the color-coded rings, but I guess this will be the 10 kilo ohm resistor. So let's check. This is 10K. So let's just put it in there. So resistors for all the beginners here are not polarized, so we can put them in any way we want. And yeah, just plug them in like this. Then I'm gonna bend the legs a bit to the outside so it doesn't fall out. Ah, you can't see that. Let me put that into shot. So here are the pins. Then we need to take a little bit of solder and we can start soldering away. Zanardo just joined. Hey Zanardo. I'm just starting with the soldering of the kit, and I hope that we can get it to run and we can talk about stuff. And Cloverpea has joined, which is Matze, I guess, because he's the moderator. Charlie Plexing? No, let's have a look. So Cloverpea says if this is a Charlie Plexing thing, it actually isn't. It uses a decade counter, and I'm gonna repeat myself. The NE555 chip here triggers the decade counter, which counts from 1 to 10, triggering different pins on its output, which switches the transistors, which in turn switch on the LEDs one ring at a time, so you get a pulsating star. Charlie plexing would also be nice. With Charlie plexing you can trigger more LEDs than you have pins, but this here is actually pretty simple. The LEDs are all in series as far as I can see. Yeah, so that's pretty simple. So after we soldered the legs, just snip them off. And yeah, I hope you guys are all okay. I haven't done a lot of streaming in the last week, so I was very busy. But now I'm back, hopefully, with more regular content. And let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the 1Ks. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I have 11 of those and 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of these. Okay, I'm too lazy to look up the rings, so I'm gonna measure what these are. So these are the 1K ones. Funny enough, I have 11 1K, but I only need 10. So let's see what happens with the last one. So we are just gonna pull off the tape at the end here and pull out the resistors. And these resistors, I guess, are for limiting, probably for limiting the current to the LEDs. Because with LEDs, you always need to put a resistor in front of them. Otherwise, they will let through too much current and they will burn up. And that's a bad thing, obviously. Yeah, weather here in Germany is pretty nasty. We had a lot of rain today and like in the last weeks as well. So the summer is not very summer-like. So instead we stay indoors and solder some nice projects. Okay, so no just use a MCU stuff. No, it's actually not using a microcontroller to do all the funky stuff. It's discrete components. I'm looking forward to see which kind of NE555 chip they used, if it's a proper original from Texas Instruments or if it's some kind of other clone or copy. I think the 555 is a very versatile chip. There's a lot of DIY projects, nice little stuff. Yeah, it's nice to have this circuit function without an MCU. You don't need that. There are a lot of nice custom chips like the decade counters, which can do quite a lot of funny blinking things. And yeah, and Necroware joined. Hi Necroware. How are you? Is everything okay? Looking forward to see this thing here in action. I actually already have one assembled and it looks pretty nice. But mistakes were made and one row of LEDs was soldered in the wrong way. So they had to be desoldered again, which was a lot of fun. But because I had to do some more complicated repairs on a graphics card, I actually bought myself one of those cheap desoldering stations. And that beeping was the soldering iron going to sleep, which is okay. So now I have a desoldering station, which helps immensely with things like desoldering ICs or resistor packs, or with desoldering a ton of LEDs that were put in the wrong way. Yeah, you should also check out Necroware's YouTube channel. I think he has some very cool stuff over there, if you haven't watched it already. So, all the 1Ks are in place. I'm not sure what to do with the 11th one. Probably need to put it somewhere. The 10K is here. And I think the resistors are probably all in parallel to make a different valued resistor. Not sure why they did it like that. Probably the cheapest components they could get. But yeah, who cares? So let's solder these spots on this very close to the edge. I could turn on the fume extractor, but then you wouldn't hear a thing that I'm saying. Not that it matters much, but I think the noise would be annoying. Yeah. So there are a bunch of videos that I want to do and that are in the pipeline, but also some problems that I encountered. The reason why I bought the desoldering station was for the VGA card project, where I have to swap a bunch of resistor packs. And doing that manually is terrible, to say the least. And this is also why I haven't done or finished the video on that yet, because the card doesn't quite work yet. There's a lot of graphics glitches, but I'm looking forward to finally finishing that. Also have a bunch of ideas for Let's Code videos, but those take a lot of time. So all the resistors are fine. Snip, snip, snip. We'll also need a power supply, because I think I have a USB hub over there that should be able to provide power. USB has become universal power supply instead of universal serial bus. I think nowadays you can power everything from USB. Oh, I forgot something here. There is one pad that I didn't solder. So let's do that. Here we go. Here we have it. Okay. Probably not my cleverest idea to solder right next to a little clamp here. Ah, now I got it. USB, universal supply brick. Yes, exactly. Okay, this resistor is not nicely soldered. Let's retouch it. It's not flush with the board. Now it's better. And this one here is also not nice. Much better. Okay. Next up are these here. Let's check these resistors as well. These are these are 200 ohms. Okay. So this will give us 1K and 200 ohms in parallel. Does anyone have the rules for parallel resistors? I think it's 1 over first plus 1 over the second, and then the reciprocal of that or something. I am not quite sure. The problem now is I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spots, but only 9 200 ohm resistors. This was the same case. Ah, okay. Neckware has it. R1 times R2 over R1 plus R2. So 1K and 200 ohms gives us which value? Without having to dig up my calculator. Or I can try to use my weird HP clone. Let's see if I can manage it this time to use it. So we have R1 is 1000. Enter, then we have 200, enter, times is 40,000. Then we have 1200, and we divide that. 33, is that correct? That can't be correct. Okay, someone tell me please if that is correct or not. 33 sounds way too low. I would say 330 maybe. Would be more in the region that I would expect, because it can't be lower than the lowest of the two. Should be somewhere between 200 and 1000 obviously. But I think I'm too stupid to use the calculator with reverse Polish notation. Anyway, I'm wondering why they gave 11 of the 1K and only 9 of the 200 ohms. But it was the same with the... Okay, you shut up. That was the multimeter. Anyway, I'm really wondering why they did that. And the other kit was the same. So at first I thought it's just a mistake in the one kit, but this one here comes with the same values. So obviously there must be some plan that they had, but I'm not sure what it is. I'm gonna put the 200 ohms on here as best as I can. These are really cheap resistors. The leads are very thin. If you buy from a proper brand like Circon or something, they have very thick leads. But these no-name resistors are always pretty flimsy. Which is okay, because there's not much current running through this thing anyway. And they don't have to be very accurate. So that's all good. So we only have one of the 200 ohm resistors left, but we have one more 1K resistor. So I'm gonna put this one over here. And then we need to put the 1K resistor down there, because there's no more pad that was labeled 1K, so I guess it doesn't matter where I put it. But I did the same for the other kit and it worked just fine, so I guess it's just important that we have some kind of resistor for every LED ring, because we have 10 LEDs from the innermost to the outermost. And I guess that's sort of fine like that. Okay, next round. Come on. There we go. Is the audio okay? Because I'm not using an extra microphone. I'm just using the built-in iPhone microphone. But I think that's not a bad microphone at all. Oh, sorry, it was AFK for a minute. It is about 166 ohms. Okay, that's good. Then I was just simply too stupid to use my calculator as usual. I do like the calculator, but I'm not used to the reverse Polish notation. Since every smartphone or computer has a built-in calculator, it doesn't make much sense to use a separate one nowadays. Oh, forgot one pad. Forgot one pad. There we go. All right. I think this thing will end up on the Christmas tree top this Christmas. Or rather, maybe even the two kits. So put them back to back with some isolation between, and then you have a nice little Christmas star on the top of the tree. Nerdy Christmas star. All right. All the capacitors are soldered. Perfect. Now we could do the LEDs, I guess, because they are the most work, more or less. How do we start? We will need to do it alternating. Oh, look at that. Counter chip has a... Oh, nasty. The legs are bent. Careful, careful. Or we'll need to do some very creative soldering. So if anyone wants to look up the datasheet, it's a CD47BE with a Texas Instruments logo, maybe? Could be faked, I don't know. Maybe it's genuine. Not sure. And let's look at the NE555. It also with the Texas Instruments logo, but I'm also not sure if that's genuine or faked. Well, I'll leave that up to you to figure out. This is the tiny barrel plug for the power supply. And there's a bunch of transistors. So I would say I'll start with yellow in the middle for a change. So here are the LEDs. Long leg should be the anode, I think. No, the cathode. Or, no, I'm thinking, let's think again. This should be the plus side, I think. So this should be the anode. Anyway, it should go in, so the triangle is pointing to the right, so the long leg goes on the left. And if that's incorrect, we will have some fun times. What we could actually do is we could solder in all the other components first, and then we can test the individual rings. Does it make sense? So, little vote. Shall we? Oh, I can even put up a vote. Solder in LEDs first. So, very quick poll. I'm not sure if I can see the results of the poll or when I can see them. I'm going to solder in the first one of the LEDs, but if we solder in the LEDs first, we can't test. We could solder in the capacitors and transistors, and then we can test as we go. Or we just solder away and see in the end if it works, which is also fine, because I never make mistakes, obviously. Just kidding. So vote at the moment is no, don't solder in the LEDs first. Not sure how many people voted. Oh, 3 votes, okay. So I would say you guys want to have a test while we are going. So yeah, let's do that. We don't solder in the LEDs first. I'm gonna put in the counter chip. I'm gonna straighten out the legs a little bit. So obviously when ordering this stuff from China, all the chips, notches at the bottom, all the chips get smashed up really good. And the legs are a bit fragile. There's no sockets here, but I don't think we need any. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Solder one leg. Solder another leg. And it's sticking now to the PCB. And then solder one leg after the other. One row of legs looks fine. This one could be a bit better. Yeah. Now we are talking. Next row of legs. This is really nice to solder. This is really a good beginner's kit. And it has so many components that maybe at first the resistor is a bit hard and the first few LEDs will not be perfect. But at the end, after like roughly 100 or so solder joints, you will actually be pretty good. So let's solder the timer chip. Voila. Then we can put in the power. And after that we need to put in the capacitors and the transistors. At least the transistor that switches this middle LED, but I'm not sure which one that is. I would need to beep out or try to trace the connections. I'm not sure if we can figure that one out, but we can have a look. And then we could already test and see if it starts blinking. Which would be kind of nice. Struens has arrived. Hello, Struens. How are you? Hope there's not too much rain in your place. Let's take the little capacitors, the electrolytics first. This one is the 10 microfarad one. This side marks the minus, and here here's the 10 microfarads, and the white side marks the minus, the left side marks the plus. So let's put the minus to this side, long leg into the plus. That's good. And then let's take the 220 microfarad one. Minus is here, goes to the left. And we need the little tiny 104 picofarad. This is probably, if I were to guess, it's probably the bypass capacitor for the timer chip, maybe, without seeing where the traces go. And let's solder this. There we go. Snippity snip. Off it goes. Now it would be interesting to see where the LED trace goes. It goes over here and to there. So I would say this transistor switches the middle LED. So let's put that in. Then we put in the trimmer capacitor, not capacitor, but the trimmer pot to tune the NE505. And after that we should already have a blinking circuit, I would say, if I figure that out. So let's see. Let's put in the transistor. If I can make it work. Yes, there we go. Okay. 3 legs are soldered. All right, so yes, we need the little tiny 10K trimmer pot. Put that in, and then I need to see if my USB hub has a long enough lead so that we can power this thing up and already see if something is blinking. All right. Not sure what you guys are talking about, but that doesn't matter. So here's the interesting power lead, which is USB on one side and a barrel plug, a tiny barrel plug actually, on the other side. And yes, I think my USB hub is long enough. And let's see. Yeah, we got a blinking light. That's neat. So the trace definitely went to the transistor and then to the LED. And it's working. Let's fetch something like a screwdriver and tweak this. This is very slow. And this way it gets faster. So with this trimmer we can tune the NE555 chip to trigger more often or less often. That's nice. It works. No smoke test. No smoke, test negative. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. So we do know that at least at this point in the stream, the whole thing is working. And I didn't put in the LED in the wrong way. So long leg always to the left. That's something we can think of. So let's put in the next circle of LEDs, I would say. We could also put in a whole row, but I think at the moment I rather want to do one ring at a time and then put in the next transistor. Who knew that you didn't need to boot a Linux kernel to blink an LED? That, or use something like the Pi Pico or something on 18 mega. You only need 2 chips. Well, actually we could have not used the decade counter, but only the NE555 and wire that directly to an LED. That would have also been a possibility. Just run a jumper wire or something. But of course, we want to have more rings of LEDs. So we will put in ring after ring. Hopefully don't break anything in the process. And if you have, like, I have a bunch of LEDs somewhere with different colors, you could also add more colors to this, obviously. These kits only come with red and yellow, but you could, of course, put in blue and green ones as well. You might need different... Am I doing this right? I think so. You might need different resistor values, maybe. If, for example, the blue LED needs different amount of current or something. That might be the case. Not sure about that. Oh, it's a bit tricky to get them all at the same height. Yeah, of course, a Pi 4 would be perfect for blinking LEDs. Much better than this circuit here for sure. And it needs to be, of course, in the cloud and Internet of Things, etc. Need some Amazon S3 service. Without that, it's nothing. It might not have been the cleverest idea to build this ring in a ring fashion, because it's very hard to get in there now with the iron. but once I cut the leads, it might get easier. And we will need to figure out in a second where the next transistor has to go out, or I will just put in the transistors all at once, because it doesn't hurt if there's nothing attached to them, I think. And just not switching anything. Okay, so I can't get to the inner two leads, so I need to snip them first. Okay, Chris Retro is doing dad jokes, which is perfect. Love it. My kind of humor. So I better don't cut the unsoldered leads yet, even though it probably doesn't hurt much because the LED is already soldered to the other side, so it won't fall out of the PCB magically. Okay, now I can reach the two remaining leads that were in this kind of forest. But it's getting better for the outer rings because there's much more space to work with. And we can try to figure out which transistor is switching these. So let's see. No, maybe from the bottom. So there's something going. It's going over here. So there's a trace, if you can see that. This trace runs straight over the PCB to this transistor, which is transistor Q6. So let's try to put in Q6 and see if this will start switching on the second ring. My guess is yes, it will. By the way, did any of you people have an electronics toy kit as a child with like transistors and resistors and jumper wires and stuff? Because I did, although I understood only half of what I was doing there. But I noticed that nowadays you can't get any of these. All the electronics kits for children are, oh yeah, look at this, works. Are some kind of dumbed down versions. And I actually have one of the kits from my childhood here. And I think it's pretty neat. It's from Bosch, called the Electronics. Let's zoom out for a second. And as you can see, it comes with transistors, resistors and stuff, and even capacitors and switches, and you can build all kind of things with this. Easier than a breadboard because you don't have to handle the fragile components, but it's like on little Lego bricks, and you run jumper wires and put them down with some plasticky rubbery things. And there's like a booklet which explains how everything works. And I think that's actually a pretty good way to teach electronics. But they don't make them anymore. So of course I can still buy breadboards and stuff, but I think that's maybe a bit too complicated for people like 10-year-olds. And hello Jan Erik, welcome to the stream. Yeah, so I'm wondering if any of you guys had something like that as a kid, because I love that, and I think it's very useful for teaching kids how electronics work. And not just these dumbed down versions that only have like a light bulb and a switch and that's it. And yeah, I don't know. What are your opinions? How did you get to play with electronics as a kid? Also, when I was little, at some point, actually I got I got this teaching electronics thingy after I disassembled my mother's alarm clock and wasn't able to put it back together. And she was a bit disappointed and also noticed maybe it's better to give Arne a proper toy to play around with instead that he starts taking apart everything in the household. Neko says, I had a wall plug and a fork. That is how it started. So it started out pretty dark, I guess. And it's also why he's called Necroware, maybe? Oh, come on. This one doesn't want to stick. I think it wants to fall through. All right. Putting in the last LED of the third ring. Carefully turning it around, and something fell out. Okay, I need to bend the legs on this one a little. Okay, now we're going. Cloverpeer says, 2 forks and some copper cable make a nice water boiler. Yes. But isn't the problem that you need to use special electrodes, otherwise they will dissolve in the water? And makes for some nasty tasting water. Probably stainless steel works fine. But I know that some metals start to dissolve when you basically do electrolysis with them. Okay, so everyone only had forks and cables and a wall outlet. Alright, the last leg stuck on my table. Last leg is over here. And we're done. Okay, one of the LEDs fell out a little bit. I want to move it a bit up, 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 up. I think that's fine. And we will need to trace out people are still voting, although it's even too late by now because we didn't put in the LEDs first. We put in the circuitry first to be able to test on the go and see if we're making any mistakes. I guess it depends on the country and time where you grew up, Neko says. And that's true, but I think there was probably some form or other of this toy in every country. I know I had relatives from the German Democratic Republic, so East Germany, and they had something very similar. And they had some nice science toys. So at least in both Germanys, I think these kinds of toys were pretty widespread. And I've got this stupid LED at an angle, trying to fix it. I meant nice sets were by far not available everywhere in the world. That's true, Nico. Soul Sister ID says, then I got it right. I guess the LED part? Yes. At least that's how we're doing it now. So the third ring. Do we figure out where the third ring is triggered from? It's okay, it's very simple. So there's one of the LEDs from the third ring, and it goes straight to this transistor here, which is Q2. Let's put it in and test it. So I remember that my electronics toy kit came back then with 2 transistors, which were used for like blinking LEDs, flip-flop style stuff, and but also it came with a coil for AM radios. There was also a tunable capacitor and a potentiometer, and so you could build a AM radio actually with a 2 transistor amplifier. That was pretty neat. And back then there were still a lot of German radio stations broadcasting on AM. I think today there's none that's still active, but it was very fascinating as a kid to be able to build my own radio actually. That was pretty nice. Okay, taking all bets, will the third ring work? Yeah, kinda does. It is blinking. Perfect. So next up are the red LEDs again. And I'm wondering if I'm going to do rings or if I'm doing just one row at a time, because I think that's probably easier to solder than the rings. So I'm gonna do the whole row now to switch up things a little bit. Which will they still work? I think they still work because they're not in series. I think they're actually in parallel, the LEDs, which would make sense, otherwise you would need much higher voltage. So I think they are wired in parallel. So they should already be blinking, as long as all the transistors are in place to switch the rails. Which we can take care of actually. It's not a huge problem. So there are different ways to test the circuit as we go. First thing is to put in ring by ring and then putting in the respective transistors, or we put in all the transistors and one row at a time. Should be roughly equivalent. Let's do this row of things first. The rightmost leg will be a bit tricky. Hello. Okay, this one got a bit. Oh, come on. Janky. Okay, bye, Necroya. Necroya has to leave. Doesn't matter. He already saw that it's working. What time is it? We have 20 past 9. Okay. I think we will finish this by 10, probably earlier, because this is actually working relatively quickly. However, I need to push this somewhere where I can reach it from 2 sides. Yeah, got it. Make sure not to inhale too much of the Löt fumes. Yes, I have. But I can turn it on. And now it's here. It's my fume extractor. However, when I turn it on, you won't be able to listen to me. And the Löt fumes are not too many. So I'm just gonna deal with it and not inhale too much. And it's also the nice smelling Löt fumes with the synthetic, what do you call it? The synthetic flux, which is made from rosin, and not the nasty one with the acid smell and the halogens in it, which smells terrible. There's a bit of Lötstream. I think, is there anyone here in the stream who doesn't speak German? But I will continue to speak German because there are a lot of people watching this. A few people watching this later who will not speak German. And at some point I will start a German speaking channel as well, but not enough time for that. So I'm going to put in all the, not the resistors, transistors, so we can basically test the whole row now and see that it works. I do have replacement transistors somewhere here in one of the boxes if one of the transistors should be broken, but I guess they should be pretty rugged. We're not heating them up too badly. I mean, transistors are a little bit sensitive to static discharge and the like, but I think it's not too terrible. Okay, up the other way around. You can twist this actually only one way around, like this, because there's a spring here and it doesn't want to turn the other way. Makes funny noises and just blocks, which is okay, but it's a really useful piece of equipment. So there we are. One leg soldered on every transistor. Now for the... I'm not even sure if I'm now soldering the base pin or the collector or the emitter. I don't know what it's... what's the pinout for this type of transistor. Alright, all the pads soldered, snippety snip. Oh, I think I need to be more careful here. I made a bridge. I made a bridge with a pin because I was too quick. Yeah, that wasn't too good. Now to reflow this. Now the bridge is gone. Okay, reminder, don't pinch all 3 pins at the same time because you will create a weird bridge. Rather always take 2 pins at most that are naturally in line, and not take a third one that is not in line. So, okay. And now to see if the whole row lights up. Oh yes, it does. And the interesting part of this circuit is that it first lights up all the yellow LEDs, and then it starts again with the red LEDs, which is a nice effect. So that's also why you do like alternating colors. And also my LEDs are a bit crooked, but you can very gently bend them back in place. Okay, that's neat. Let's do the next row. And I randomly pick this one over here. Incidentally, I don't have a drink with me right now. I think I'm gonna fetch one. I hope you all have a drink in your hand while watching this. Hopefully. The name of the kit is LSD-73, really. Yes, that's what I thought. Maybe this kit should be watched or viewed when consuming certain things. I'm not encouraging anyone to do that, but maybe that's what the creators had in mind. Totally guessing here. You can search these things on eBay. There are, I think, a couple of Chinese sellers selling these. Okay, I'm gonna fetch the drink now. Alright, tonight's drink is a classic Reisdorf Kölsch. Beer from Cologne. Let's open it up and say Prost. Excellent. Turn over this one. And the first LED falls out. In you go again. Long leg to the plus side of things. Oh, come on. Stay in there. Okay. Let's quickly solder this before it falls out again. And the next one. And the whole row. All right. Turn around. Am I still in shot? Yes, I am. And on the other side. So you don't need any LSD if you have the flux fumes. Okay. Pinching off the leads. Let's hope that we didn't put in one of the LEDs the wrong way, or else we have fun desoldering. Yeah, here we go. And my LEDs are so crummy. But they work. That's cool. Getting better. Alright, next row. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows to go. Oh yeah, we will need to speed up a little to make it in time for my personal goal that we are finished by 10. I think we can make it. It's only the LEDs that I'm missing now. Everything else is in place and working fine. So yesterday I browsed for other kits that are available on eBay from those Chinese sellers, because I like these things. They are like doing a puzzle or kind of doing a meditation. You don't have to think a lot during this. It's a lot of manual work, and I actually find this pretty relaxing. And I ordered a set of Christmas trees that are like 2 PCBs. I have a similar thing for the Raspberry Pi, but this one is standalone. So it's probably similar to this circuit here. And yeah, it would be... Christmas is coming, obviously. We already have August. So time to buy your Christmas presents and sort all the Christmas decoration. Plus the shipping time from China said it will arrive in September to October. So it will, the next Lötstream will be probably sooner about something different, but the Christmas tree will definitely be up as well in the stream. And that could be as late as October, maybe even November. So always good to order your Christmas stuff from China early in the year. And I'm not gonna test it this time. I'm just gonna put in the next row of lights. I might want to straighten out some of these LEDs because I'm not quite happy in the way I put in some of these. But that will have to wait a little bit. First I want to have in all the LEDs and see how it looks with everything in place. There we go. I think the stream is lagging behind quite a lot because I see myself still doing other stuff. So I'm not sure how big the latency is, but I think it's substantial. So on my computer right now it's 21:38. I'm not sure what time it is when you're watching this. but I would guess it's at least a minute of lag, which is interesting. But I'm happy with the video quality at least. 938 here too. Okay, so then the lag is not that bad. It might just be my browser lagging behind. I'm just running it in the background to see the chat window and also if the stream is still working. Because earlier today I had troubles with my ISP. They messed up my connection. DSL wasn't working at the beginning of the week, but started working on Wednesday again. But the phone wasn't working. So they tried to fix some stuff today over the phone with me, and it led to the internet not working at all. So I had to revert back to the previous configuration, and then internet was working again, but my landline is still not working. But they figured out that it's a problem on their side, and I had to create a ticket for their IT to fix my phone entry at their side. And everything was solved 15 minutes before the stream. I was already anxious that I couldn't go online, but everything worked out so far as I do have internet now and can stream, but I can't make any phone calls, at least not from my landline, which I like to use sometimes because mobile phone reception here is pretty bad and I can only make mobile phone calls via Wi-Fi, which doesn't work if the internet isn't working. So that's that. But they promised me that by Tuesday phone will be working too. So that's something to look forward to. Uh-oh, I'm dropping some of the clipped leads to the floor, which is always a nice thing if you step onto them. It hurts a bit. So let's see if I can find it. Yes, found it. Okay. That's better. Okay. 4 more rows to go. And then we are ready, almost ready for Christmas. Come on. Yeah, here we go. You can also never remember which leg is the anode and which leg is the cathode. But I now found something to remember it by, sort of like. So the long leg is the anode and the short leg is the cathode, because anode is plus and this is minus, and the long leg goes to the long side of the triangle of the diode symbol. That's at least how I try to remember it. And I hope that does make sense in some way. And I also never could remember if anode is plus or cathode is plus, but my physics teacher in high school, she gave us something to remember it by, which only makes sense in German. Her mnemonic for remembering this was that cathode and anode are Kamm and Ampel, which is comb and traffic light, which doesn't make sense in English. But the Kamm has the K of German cathode and the M of the minus, and I'm putting the wrong LED here. And the Ampel, which is the traffic light, has the A of the anode and the P of the plus or positive. And although it's a bit of a stupid mnemonic, it worked for me ever since, so I can sort of reconstruct which thing is positive and which is negative. Now having the triangle with the long side and the long leg is another thing to help me remember that. So yeah, I don't need to look it up anymore. Eselsbrücke, exactly, that's the German word for something like this. So I'm now doing 2 rows at the same time. Question is, will it work in the end? I think so. Now this doesn't look good. Now it looks better. Is there an English word for Eselsbrücke? I'm not sure. Someone please look it up. Yeah, this one doesn't look good. Retouching. Trump bridge. Okay, more dead jokes. Did anyone hear what Trump is up to these days? He's sort of disappeared from public view, I think. Or are there any... I mean, no news about him is probably good news. But I think I haven't heard in a long while about that guy. Alright, cutting a lot of leads now. Not sure if anyone else joined, but we are assembling the LSD-73 soldering practice kit, which is sort of like a blinking star. I think it might be used for Christmas decoration, but you can use it for whatever. It's a very nice kit, especially for beginners. It has only 2 integrated circuits, a timer chip and a decade counter, which counts from 1 to 9 on its different pins, and it can basically make 10 rings of LEDs blink in a star-shaped pattern. And we're down to our last 2 rows of LEDs that we need to solder. I might want to touch up some of these because they're a bit crooked, but so far everything worked. And I'm gonna do one more test before doing the last 2 rows. I think this is looking fine. Yeah. None of the LEDs seem broken. That's good. It's already looking pretty trippy. Alright, long leg on the long side, I said. We are nearing the completion of this thing. Only a few more LEDs to go. And then I'm going to turn off all the lights and we can see it in all its glory. Mnemonic trick is apparently a viable translation. Okay, makes sense. There is a short story by William Gibson, which is called Johnny Mnemonic. I'm not sure I ever read it. I read the Neuromancer. And I think Johnny Mnemonic also got a movie adaptation, which I also didn't see so far, I didn't watch it. And I do know that for assembly language, the names of the operations are called mnemonics. Because they're like human rememberable form of the machine code. I should do another assembly Let's Code because the Hello World assembly was pretty popular. However, my assembly skills aren't that good, so I need to really work on that. Oh god. We need to adjust this once more, if possible. Yeah, like this. Alright. Please don't fall out. Okay, that's good. The last two rows of LEDs are being soldered. I really have to say this is a great kit for beginners. By the end of it, you will have a lot of practice. Because many of the smaller kits, they only have like 10 components or something, which is okay, you get pretty quick reward, but what you actually need is a lot of practice, especially with soldering. The more, the better. And there, of course, the SMD kits that I also showed in a couple of videos, but for a beginner they're of course much harder to deal with due to the size of the components and the difficulty in soldering SMD stuff with a manual iron. Not impossible. I'm relatively happy with my own skills with that now, though still a bit anxious about QFP packages and stuff like that. I think for a beginner it might be too much. Route 42 is German. Yes, I am. As can be heard from my accent. And as I said, I think at the moment at least everyone commenting on the stream is German as well, so I could switch to German, but since people will be watching this in the archive, and most of the viewers of my channel are still from the US or similar, I'm rather staying and just drinking German beer instead. Perfect. All right. We are officially done. I'm gonna switch off all the lights. And dim this one too. Bit less bright, something like this. And I'm gonna turn on the blinking lights. And hopefully we will see the star. Merry Christmas, everyone, in, well, beginning of August. I think this is pretty neat. Seems to work fine. I'm gonna pick up my keychain again. I'm gonna make this blink a bit faster. Yeah, that's nice. But maybe a bit too hectic. Yeah, we can turn it down all the way and make it blink very slowly. PC Sound Legacy gives us 3 thumbs up. Yay, LSD lighting. Yeah, so I hope you have the drug of your choice at hand and enjoy the nice blinking lights. Maybe the LSD is a typo, maybe it was LED or something. I'm not sure. Yeah. But that's the kit, and I think it's pretty nice. It has some holes here, so you can mount it somewhere. As I said, I would probably take the second kit that I already have assembled right here. And it would be nice to put them back to back and put them on a Christmas tree on top. Simplest thing would probably be to just put some screws and nuts through the holes and basically just squish it onto the top of the tree. Then it has enough separation. Probably can use these hex standoffs for that. And it will squish to the treetop by friction. Then you just need basically these 2 cables, run them down the tree, and have some hidden USB power bricks or something like that, because I guess the power brick will run this for the whole evening. I think that would be a nice addition to a nerdy Christmas tree, and during the day you can even see all the circuitry and stuff. And I don't think it would be a huge fire hazard, I guess, because it's pretty low voltage and low current. At least not much worse than your regular Christmas lights, hopefully. Yeah, anyway, it's almost 10 p.m. and that was my goal, to have this finished by 10. I think we achieved that, and it's a very nice looking thing. So yeah, it has been a long time since I was streaming, but I will return, and I have a bunch of videos lined up. I just need a bit more time to prepare them. But this one is already a nice piece of thing and gadgetry. I like it. So thank you for everyone to drop by in today's stream. I hope you have a magnificent evening and a nice start in the new week. Yeah, I think that's it for today. And I think all of you who have joined are already subscribed, so no need to say subscribe. But everyone else watching this in the archives, feel free to subscribe, like, and comment and stuff. Anyway, thank you everyone, and have a very nice evening.